The voice on the phone whispered something that made my blood turn cold. There are 18 of them. I gripped the phone tighter and looked at the dark woods outside my cabin window. What do you mean? I asked. The man on the phone spoke again, but this time his voice sounded scared. I mean the stories, he said. 18 true scary stories. And every one of them happened here. Thunder rolled across the mountains outside. The power inside the cabin flickered once. Then the man said something that I will never forget. And tonight, you're about to become the 19th. The phone line suddenly went dead. I slowly lowered the phone and stared at the darkness outside. That was the moment I realized something terrible was happening around me. But to understand how I ended up in that cabin, and why 18 terrifying stories were connected to it, you need to hear what happened earlier that week. My name is Tyler Brooks. And this all started when I found a strange online post. I was 21 years old and living in Colorado at the time. I loved listening to horror podcasts and watching scary story videos online. One night I was scrolling through a small internet forum where people shared creepy experiences. That's when I saw the post. The title caught my attention right away. 18 chilling true scary stories that will haunt you. Horrormix Volume 122. The post was written by a user named Daniel M. It was long. Very long. Inside it were 18 different scary stories that had all happened in the same small mountain town called Silver Pine. At first I thought it was just another creepy story collection. But the more I read, the stranger it felt. Each story described something disturbing that had happened in Silver Pine over the last 30 years. And every single story ended the same way, with the person involved disappearing. The first story was about a hiker named Mark. Mark went camping in the woods near Silver Pine. One night he heard someone knocking on his tent. But when he opened it, no one was there. The knocking continued all night. By morning, Mark's tent was empty. His friends never saw him again. The second story was about a waitress named Rachel who worked at a small diner in Silver Pine. Late one night a man came in and ordered coffee. He sat in the corner booth and stared at her the whole time. When she went to refill his cup, the man was gone. But the booth was covered in muddy footprints. Rachel quit her job the next day. 3 days later she disappeared from her apartment. The third story was about a group of teenagers who explored an abandoned cabin outside town. They heard footsteps upstairs. But when they ran up to check, the room was empty. Later that night one of the boys received a text message from an unknown number. The message said, "Don't come back here." The boy ignored it. A week later he vanished while walking home from school. I kept reading. Story after story. Each one stranger than the last. A truck driver who saw someone standing in the middle of the highway at night. A hunter who heard someone calling his name deep in the woods. A family who woke up to find muddy footprints inside their house. Every story ended the same way. Someone disappeared. And the last line of the post said something chilling. Silver Pine has 18 stories so far. But the town always seems to be waiting for the next one. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the screen. Part of me knew it was probably fake. Just a creepy story someone wrote online. But something about it felt real. Too real. And that's when I made a decision that I would later regret. I decided to visit Silver Pine. 2 days later I was driving up a winding mountain road toward the small town. Tall pine trees covered the hills. Fog hung low between the trees. The place looked exactly like the kind of town where scary stories would happen. Silver Pine only had about 500 people living there. There was one gas station, one diner, and a few small shops. I parked my car and walked into the diner from the second story in the post. The same diner where Rachel had worked. A woman behind the counter smiled at me. "Passing through?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. I ordered coffee and sat down. The diner looked normal. Nothing creepy about it. But when I mentioned the name Silver Pine, the woman's smile faded slightly. "You here for the stories?" she asked quietly. I froze. "What do you mean?" The woman leaned closer. "You wouldn't be the first person to come here asking about them." My heart started beating faster. "So they're real?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked out the window toward the forest. Then she said something that made my stomach tighten. People around here don't like talking about them. Because every time someone does. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Another story seems to start. Later that evening, I checked into a small rental cabin just outside town. The cabin sat alone near the edge of the woods. It looked peaceful during the day. But at night it felt different. The forest around it became dark and quiet. Too quiet. Around 10 p.m. I was sitting at the table reading the online post again. All 18 stories. I wanted to see if there was something connecting them. Some pattern. But the only thing they all shared was the location. Silver Pine. And the woods around it. Then something strange happened. My phone rang. The number was unknown. I answered it. Hello. For a moment no one spoke. Then a man's voice came through the phone. You shouldn't be there. My heart skipped. Who is this? I asked. You read the stories, the man said. My hands started shaking. How do you know that? The man ignored my question. Instead he asked something else. You're staying in the cabin by the woods, right? My stomach dropped. How do you know that? The man let out a slow breath. Because that cabin is where the 18th story happened. The room suddenly felt colder. What happened there? I asked. The man hesitated. Then he said something that made my blood turn cold. The person who stayed there last week disappeared. I stood up quickly and looked around the cabin. Everything looked normal. But suddenly the place didn't feel safe anymore. Why are you telling me this? I asked. The man answered quietly. Because someone needs to leave before it happens again. Just then I heard something outside. A slow knock on the cabin door. Knock. 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 The man on the phone spoke again. Don't open it. My heart was pounding now. Why not? The man's voice dropped to a whisper. Because nobody should know you're inside. Another knock came. Louder this time. Knock. 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 I slowly stepped toward the door. Who's there? I called out. No answer. The man on the phone sounded desperate now. Tyler, listen to me. My stomach twisted. How do you know my name? The man ignored the question. Instead he said the words that started everything. There are 18 chilling true scary stories connected to this town. And if you open that door. His voice shook. You're about to become the next one. Then the knocking stopped. And the door handle slowly began to turn. The door handle slowly turned. I froze in the middle of the room. The man on the phone whispered urgently. Tyler, don't open that door. My hand tightened around the phone. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. The handle kept moving. Slowly. Like someone outside was testing it. Luckily, I had locked the door earlier. The handle stopped turning. For a few seconds, the night outside went quiet again. Then something scratched across the wood. Scratch. 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 It sounded like fingernails dragging slowly across the door. I stepped back. Who's out there? I shouted. No answer. Only the wind moving through the pine trees. The man on the phone spoke again. Is it still there? Yes, I whispered. The scratching stopped. But then something else happened. A soft knock. 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 This time it sounded weaker. Almost polite. My stomach twisted. Tyler, the man said again. Listen carefully. I'm listening. The stories you read online, they're not just random events. What do you mean? They're connected. The cabin creaked softly as the wind pushed against the walls. Connected how? I asked. The man hesitated. Every story begins the same way. My eyes moved slowly toward the door. What way? The man's voice became quieter, with someone hearing a knock. My chest tightened. Then what happens? Then the person opens the door, he said. And after that? He stopped speaking. After that what? I asked. But the man didn't answer right away. Instead he said something strange. Do you know what Horrormix Volume 122 is? I thought it was just the name of the story post, I said. It's not, the man replied. It's a collection. Of what? Of the 18 stories. I looked toward the window. Outside, the trees were swaying slowly. So someone just wrote them all down. I asked. No, the man said. They didn't write them. They recorded them. The room suddenly felt colder. What do you mean recorded? The man took a slow breath. They're recordings of real events. My fingers tightened around the phone. And someone keeps adding to it. A chill ran down my spine. You mean, when someone disappears? Yes. The cabin suddenly creaked again. But this time it sounded like a footstep. Above me. I slowly looked up toward the ceiling. The cabin only had one floor. But there was a small attic space above it. Did you hear that? I whispered. Hear what? The man asked. Something upstairs. The man went quiet for a moment. Then he spoke carefully. Tyler, when I said the stories were connected. Yes. I didn't just mean the town. What else? The same thing appears in every story. My throat felt dry. What thing? Before he could answer, a loud thump came from the attic. Thump. I jumped. Dust fell lightly from the ceiling. There. I said. The man's voice turned serious. Don't go up there. I wasn't planning to. Another sound came from above. Slow dragging. Like something moving across the attic floor. Then it stopped directly above me. My heart felt like it might explode. Tyler, the man said. I need to ask you something. What? When you read the stories, did you notice anything strange about the descriptions? I tried to think back. The 18 stories were all different. Different people. Different events. But suddenly something clicked in my mind. Wait, I said slowly. Every story mentioned someone watching. Yes, the man said quietly. In the woods. In the corner of a room. Or outside a window. My hands started shaking. Are you saying it's the same thing every time? That's what people here believe. The attic floor creaked again. This time it sounded like footsteps. Walking slowly across the ceiling. Then stopping directly above the door. Tyler, the man whispered. Do not open that door. Another knock came. This time it came from inside the cabin. From the attic door in the ceiling. Knock. 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 My heart nearly stopped. There's an attic door up there, I said. The man spoke quickly. Listen to me. The thing in the stories, it tries to get inside. Inside where? Wherever someone is alone. The attic door creaked slightly. Dust drifted down into the room. Tyler, the man said. You need to leave the cabin. How? Something's outside. Go out the back window. I looked toward the kitchen. The back window was small but big enough to climb through. Another knock came from above. Louder now. Bang, bang, bang. The attic door shook violently. Something was trying to open it. I ran to the kitchen. Are you still there? I asked into the phone. Yes, the man said. Hurry. I pushed open the window. Cold mountain air rushed inside. The forest behind the cabin was dark and silent. Tyler, the man said suddenly. What? His voice sounded scared now. Look behind you. My stomach dropped. Slowly, I turned around. The attic door had opened. And something was crawling out. Its body was thin and long. Its arms bent the wrong way. And its face looked exactly like the man from the diner. The woman who had warned me about the stories. But its mouth stretched into a huge smile. Then it spoke in a voice that sounded exactly like mine. Story number 19 begins tonight. And it started crawling toward me across the ceiling. The thing on the ceiling moved fast. Too fast. Its long arms pulled its body forward like a spider crawling across a wall. The ceiling creaked under its weight as it moved closer to me. I stumbled backward toward the kitchen window. My phone was still pressed against my ear. "Tyler!" the man shouted from the other side. "Get out of there!" The creature's head twisted sideways as it stared at me. Its eyes were wide and dark, and its smile stretched across its face in a way that didn't look human at all. "Don't run," it said in my voice. Hearing my own voice come from that thing made my stomach twist. I climbed onto the kitchen counter and shoved one leg through the open window. Cold air rushed against my face. Behind me, the creature dropped from the ceiling. Thud. It landed on the kitchen floor with a heavy sound. My heart nearly stopped. "Tyler, go," the man yelled. I pushed the rest of my body through the window and fell onto the grass outside. My phone slipped from my hand and landed beside me. For a second I just lay there, trying to breathe. Then I heard the window behind me slide open. I scrambled to my feet. The creature was climbing out. Its long arms gripped the window frame as it pulled itself into the night. I didn't wait. I ran. The forest behind the cabin was dark and thick with tall pine trees. Branches scraped my arms as I ran between them. The ground was uneven, and I nearly tripped several times. Behind me I heard something crashing through the bushes. The creature was chasing me. Its movements sounded wrong. Fast. Jerky. Like its bones didn't move the way bones should. I kept running deeper into the woods. The moonlight barely reached through the trees. Everything around me looked like shadows. Then I saw something ahead. A small dirt road. I ran toward it as fast as I could. When I reached the road, I turned back. The forest behind me was quiet again. No movement. No sound. I bent over and tried to catch my breath. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely stand. Then I noticed something strange. A light in the distance. Headlights. A truck was coming down the road. Relief washed over me. I stepped into the middle of the road and waved my arms. The truck slowed and finally stopped in front of me. The driver's door opened. A tall man stepped out. "Are you okay?" he asked. His voice sounded familiar. Then I realized why. It was the same voice from the phone. "You called me," I said. The man nodded. "My name is Daniel." He looked worried as he glanced toward the woods. "Did it follow you?" I looked back at the forest. "I don't think so." Daniel shook his head slowly. "It usually does." "What is that thing?" I asked. Daniel leaned against his truck. "For 30 years, people in Silver Pine have seen it." "The same creature?" "Yes. And every time someone sees it," he said quietly, "they disappear." I felt a chill run through my body. "The 18 stories," I said. Daniel nodded. "Those are the people who didn't escape." A long silence filled the road. The wind moved softly through the trees. "Why me?" I asked. Daniel looked at me carefully. "Because you read the stories." "That doesn't make sense." "It does here," he said. He pointed toward the dark woods. "That thing watches people. It waits. And when someone becomes curious enough..." My stomach dropped. "It chooses them." Suddenly something cracked in the forest behind us. Daniel grabbed my arm. "Get in the truck." "Why?" Another branch snapped loudly. Closer this time. Daniel's voice became urgent. "Because it doesn't stop." We jumped into the truck and slammed the doors. Daniel started the engine and turned on the headlights. The beams of light pointed directly at the trees. And that's when we saw it. Standing between the pines. The creature. Its long arms hung almost to the ground. Its head tilted slowly as it stared at us. Then it smiled again. But this time, it didn't move. Daniel slowly drove backward down the road. The creature remained standing in the same place. Watching us leave. After a few minutes the trees swallowed it in darkness. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Finally I broke the silence. "So that's it?" I asked. "We just leave?" Daniel kept his eyes on the road. "For now." "What do you mean for now?" He reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a small notebook. He handed it to me. On the cover were 3 words written in black marker. Horrormix Volume 122. My stomach twisted again. Those are the stories, I said. Daniel nodded. 18 of them. I slowly opened the notebook. Each page described one of the disappearances from Silver Pine. But when I reached the last page, my hands started shaking. There was a new title written at the top. Story 19. Under it were only a few words. Tyler Brooks escaped. Then a blank line. And beneath it, another title had already been written. Story 20. And far down the road ahead of us, something tall was standing in the middle of the highway. Waiting.